The morning sun filters through the windows of the Today with Jenna Friends studio, casting a warm glow over the set as the crew prepares for another lively episode. Blake Shelton, the rugged country music icon known for his easygoing charm and tenure on The Voice, steps into the spotlight, greeted by the enthusiastic applause of the live audience. Dressed in his signature casual attire jeans, a plaid shirt, and a cowboy hat, he flashes a wide grin, ready to promote his latest album and share a few laughs with hosts Jenna and the rotating guest co-hosts. The show kicks off with light-hearted banter, with Jenna teasing Shelton about his down-home persona and his marriage to Gwen Stefani, drawing chuckles from the crowd. Shelton plays along, regaling them with stories of life on his Oklahoma ranch and the playful dynamics with his wife, keeping the mood upbeat. But as the conversation flows, an undercurrent of tension begins to emerge, subtle at first. As Jenna shifts the focus toward a more serious topic, she brings up to the evolving landscape of country music, hinting at debates over its authenticity and the stereotypes often attached to the genre. Shelton nods, his expression still amiable, but there's a flicker of unease in his eyes as he responds with a measured take on the industry's changes. The guest co-host, sensing an opportunity, chimes in with the pointed question about Shelton's own public image and whether he feels pressure to conform to those stereotypes. The audience leans in, intrigued, as Shelton's demeanor shifts, his smile tightening into a thin line. Jenna, ever the provocateur, presses further, referencing recent criticisms of country music's cultural representation, and the atmosphere grows charged. Shelton's responses grow sharper, his tone laced with frustration as he defends his roots and the authenticity of his work. The stage is set for a confrontation that no one anticipates, with the producers watching closely, unsure of how far this will go. The tension in the studio escalates as Jenna, emboldened by the audience's rapt attention, digs deeper into the topic of country music's public perception. She references a recent article that criticized some artists, including Shelton, for perpetuating outdated tropes, her voice carrying a mix of curiosity and challenge. Blake Shelton, usually quick with a quip, pauses, his jaw clenching as he processes the comment. He leans forward, his hands resting on his knees, and delivers a passionate rebuttal, insisting that his music reflects his real experiences and that critics often miss the nuance of the genre. The guest co-host, perhaps sensing the rising heat, adds fuel to the fire by asking whether Shelton feels responsible for shaping a more inclusive image for country music, a question that strikes a nerve. Shelton's response is immediate and firm while he snaps back, arguing that he's not here to be a spokesperson but to make music that resonates with his fans. The audience murmurs, some nodding in support, others shifting uncomfortably as the exchange grows heated. Jenna, undeterred, pivots to a personal angle, questioning how Shelton balances his rural identity with his high-profile Hollywood life, a remark that draws a sharp intake of breath from the crowd. Shelton's eyes narrow, his voice rising as he accuses the hosts of stereotyping him, his frustration boiling over into a rare display of anger. He recounts the hard work he's put into his career, emphasizing his authenticity, but Jenna interrupts, suggesting that his public persona might not align with modern expectations. The back-and-forth becomes a rapid-fire clash, with Shelton growing increasingly defensive and the co-hosts struggling to keep pace. The producers, monitoring the situation, debate whether to intervene, but the drama is too compelling to cut short. The audience is now on edge, sensing that this interview is veering into uncharted territory. The confrontation reaches a critical juncture as Blake Shelton, pushed to his limit, begins to unravel on live television. Jenna, her tone growing more insistent, brings up a specific incident where Shelton's comments on a podcast were interpreted as dismissive of Newark country artists, a move that draws audible gasp from the audience. Shelton, his face flushing with anger, slams his hand on the table, the sound echoing through the studio as he vehemently denies the accusation, calling it a misrepresentation of his words. The guest co-host attempts to mediate, suggesting they move to a lighter topic, but Jenna waves them off, determined to press the issue further. She challenges Shelton on his role as a veteran artist in a changing industry, her questions now tinged with a confrontational edge. Shelton, His patience worn thin, rises slightly from his seat, his voice booming as he defends his legacy and accuses the show of ambushing him. The audience is split as some cheer his defiance, while others murmur in disapproval of the escalating tone. The other hosts, caught off guard, exchange uneasy glances, with one attempting to interject with a compliment about Shelton's music, only to be drowned out by the ongoing clash. Shelton's frustration peaks as he points a finger at Jenna, declaring that he won't sit through what he calls unfair jabs, his words cutting through the tension like a knife. The producers, new frantic in the control room, signal for a possible break, but the momentum is unstoppable. The exchange becomes a spectacle, with Shelton's raw emotion contrasting sharply against Jenna's relentless probing, setting the stage for an explosive exit that no one can predict. The moment of reckoning arrives as Blake Shelton, overwhelmed by the heated exchange, makes a dramatic decision that shocks the studio. With a swift motion, he yanks off his microphone, the sound of the clip releasing punctuating the tense silence. Standing up, he glares at Jenna Hager and declares, "I'm done here," his voice a mix of anger and resolve as he tosses the mic onto the table with a thud. The audience erupts into a cacophony of gasps, cheers, and murmurs, while the co-hosts freeze, stunned by the sudden turn of events. Jenna, her mouth slightly agape, tries to respond, but Shelton is already striding toward the exit, his boots echoing on the studio floor. The guest co-host stammers in an attempt to smooth things over, but the damage is done, and the cameras capture every second of the walkout. The producers, scrambling in the control room, finally cut to a commercial break, but not before the image of Shelton's retreating figure is seared into the audience's memory. Backstage, crew members rush to manage the situation as Shelton is escorted out, his team already preparing a statement. The studio falls into an awkward hush as the co-hosts regroup, with Jenna attempting to regain composure by addressing the audience. Though her voice wavers, social media explodes almost instantly, with clips of the walkout spreading like wildfire, tagged with reactions ranging from shock to support. The incident marks a rare breach of Shelton's typically affable demeanor, leaving viewers and commentators alike to dissect the fallout and its implications for his public image. As Today with Jenna Friends returns from the abrupt commercial break, the co-hosts attempt to salvage the episode, but the shadow of Blake Shelton's walkout looms large. Jenna Hager, her usual warmth replaced by a strained smile, addresses the audience, acknowledging the intensity of the moment and defending her line of questioning as part of an honest conversation. The guest co-host, still reeling, offers a cautious take, suggesting that the exchange highlighted important issues in the music industry, though they avoid directly criticizing Shelton. The audience, a mix of stunned silence and scattered applause, reflects the divided opinions in the room. Offstage, the producers are in crisis mode, fielding calls from network executives and media outlets eager for details. Social media platforms are ablaze with hashtags like #SheltonWalksOff and #JennaVersusBlake, with fans and critics weighing in, as some praising Shelton's stand against perceived bias, others accusing Jenna of overstepping. Clips of the confrontation, especially the mic drop moment, go viral, racking up millions of views within hours. Shelton's team releases a brief statement, calling the interview disrespectful and hinting at a planned response, while Jenna later tweets an apology for any unintended offense, though it does little to quell the online storm. The incident boosts the show's ratings but also sparks a broader debate about the ethics of live television interviews, with viewers questioning whether such confrontations are staged for attention. The fallout promises to reshape Shelton's relationship with the media and the show's approach to future guests. The aftermath of Blake Shelton's storm-off dominates entertainment news, with outlets analyzing every angle of the heated confrontation. Commentators debate whether Jenna Hager crossed a line with her probing questions or if Shelton overreacted to legitimate critique. Some argue that the discussion about country music's evolution was overdue, while others see it as an unfair ambush on a guest expecting a promotional spot. Talk shows and podcasts dedicate airtime to the incident, with hosts speculating on the personal and professional toll it might take on Shelton. Online, the divide is stark. Fans rally behind Shelton, sharing clips of his best performances and testimonials of his generosity, while critics point to the walkout as evidence of a fragile ego. Memes and parodies flood social media, turning the mic drop into a cultural moment, with late-night comedians adding their own spins. Today with Jenna Friends faces scrutiny, with some viewers threatening to boycott over the handling of the interview, while others commend the show for tackling tough topics. Producers reportedly review their guest protocols, wary of alienating future stars. Shelton, maintaining a low-profile post-incident, focuses on his music, though rumors swirl about a potential return to address the fallout. The controversy reignites discussions about authenticity in country music, with artists and fans weighing in on the genre's direction. The event becomes a case study in the high stakes of live TV, highlighting the fine line between journalism and entertainment. Days later, the story of Blake Shelton's walkout continues to unfold, with Today with Jenna Friends dedicating a segment to reflect on the incident. Jenna Hager opens with a measured apology, clarifying her intent to spark a meaningful dialogue rather than provoke. Though she stands by the relevance of the topic, the guest co-hosts offer varied perspective as some support Jenna's approach. Others suggest a gentler touch might have prevented the escalation. The audience response is mixed, with applause for the show's boldness tempered by calls for more sensitivity toward guests. Entertainment analysts note that the controversy has thrust country music's cultural debates into the spotlight, with online forums buzzing with opinions. Shelton's fans launch a social media campaign, #SupportBlake, flooding platforms with positive messages, while critics dissect his reaction as unprofessional. The incident also draws attention to Jenna's hosting style, with some praising her tenacity and others questioning her judgment. Behind the scenes, the network considers damage control, with executives debating how to address the backlash. Shelton remains silent beyond his team's initial statement, focusing on upcoming performances, but the incident leaves a lasting imprint on his public narrative. The clash becomes a talking point in music circles, prompting discussions on how artists navigate media scrutiny in an era of heightened sensitivity. Weeks after the storm off, the Blake Shelton incident remains a touchstone in entertainment discourse, referenced in pop culture analyses and media ethics debates. The event has sparked a broader conversation about the role of talk shows in shaping public perceptions, with critics arguing that sensationalism often overshadows substance. Jenna Hager, now a focal point of both praise and criticism, continues to host with a renewed focus on balance, though the episode's fallout lingers. Shelton, returning to the spotlight with a new single, avoids further talk show appearances, letting his music speak for him. The controversy has also boosted interest in country music's evolution, with streaming numbers for Shelton's catalog seeing a noticeable uptick. Social media remains active, with new memes and discussions emerging, keeping the moment alive. Today with Jenna Friends adjusts its format, promising more collaborative interviews, though the incident's impact on guest bookings remains unclear. The clash between Shelton and Jenna serves as a reminder of live TV's unpredictability, raising questions about the balance between entertainment and accountability. As the story fades, it leaves a legacy of lessons for hosts, guests, and viewers alike, cementing its place as a defining moment in daytime television history.